Recently I had the opportunity to get hands-on and get to experience one of those vintage Citizen bullhead watches, and I really liked it. It was quite an exciting watch, an interesting watch, and a different watch, and it actually put me onto a possible journey of buying one for myself. But as I was looking at them, I realized that perhaps that they might cost a little bit more than what I want to spend, plus that they're older vintage watches with a chronograph movement, so they probably require some further money to be put into them. And because they were older watches, they were sort of more vintage sizes, and maybe they'd be a little bit smaller than what I'd want. But because I really liked the design, it put me on that pathway of looking at, well, what other bullhead design watches are there available? What is out there that is new, perhaps a little bit more modern sized, and not having that requirement to spend that extra money on servicing? And that led me to this watch from Cadola. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches. And it wasn't just the fact that it was this bullhead design chronograph. That was definitely a part of the element and one of the reasons why I was initially drawn to it, but it was the design and the colors that was really interesting to me and gave this watch something a little bit extra. Because this watch definitely has a couple of different color variations that really lean into those sort of 60s, 70s rally racing designs. And I like that, and it suits this particular watch. And if you want to buy one of these, well, there are a few different color variations. They are all currently showing on the website as sold out, but I believe they're going to be restocking soon. But no matter which color variation that you decide upon, they're $300 US. Now, I actually liked the blue variation the best. It was the one that captured my attention the most. But there's also a black and a green and a beige and a red, and you'll see that they have offset colors on those subdials. They really will lean into that 60s, 70s racing sort of heritage sort of idea, but also just makes this design pop. But when I came across this watch, I was disappointed because I saw that they were sold out. So I reached out to them and said, hey, when are these coming back in stock? Because they look really cool. And they said to me that they are working on that, and they actually have some models available for reviews, and they would send me out one, and I get to keep it. So that is why you see that sponsored icon up there earlier on the video. And of course, I'm just going to leave a link directly to their website so you can check them out for yourself and keep an eye out for when they are restocked. Now, of course, for them to be $300 US, these are not mechanical chronograph movements. They are Japanese quartz movements. And I'm not actually sure exactly which Japanese quartz movement it is because it doesn't list which one they are. But what I do know is that I like this version of a chronograph movement that is quartz because it has a moving, ticking second. That central hand, which is normally your chronograph hand, is not a chronograph hand. It is a second hand, so you've got that movement on the dial. The chronograph itself actually moves these subdials. That one on the left is a 1/10 of the second subdial, so you see that rapid movement of that hand, which is nice. The one on the right is a counter of the seconds, so it gives you that 1 second at a time counter. And the one at the base at that 6 o'clock is your minutes. You will notice if you watch this for long enough that 1/10 of the second hand stops after 1 minute. And I think that's a really good choice for a quartz chronograph movement. All the subdials are actually useful and fun. You've actually got some movement on the dial even when you're not utilizing the chronograph movement by that main second hand. But I have to admit, as I look at this watch, that's not really what is standing out to me. It's the dial and the color combination of this one. The blue is a really sort of subdued blue. In some environments, it doesn't quite look black, but it looks like a sort of a darker blue. But then you look at the subdials and that sort of teal green and that orange and those segments and how they're divided up, and then that sort of outer section on the edge of the dial, which also has those colors, and then this orange second hand, and it just looks great. They complement each other and it's fun, and it really gives an additional design aspect to this watch that it drew me specifically to this brand beyond others that I was looking at. And I think it is why I think a lot of people are going to choose this one. Not just because it's relatively affordable and this overall bullhead design, but it is really these color combinations that I think really drive this one home as something that is rather interesting. The main hands there, the minute and the hour hand, they look like they're divided into two, which is quite a cool effect. But what they are actually done is that they're divided by a black line, but then also have a whole heap of loom in them. So it almost looks like 2 points coming away with some loom in between, but it's a black segment which gives the illusion of a two-part handset. And I don't think I've ever actually seen a date window that melds into the design of the dial as well as this one does. Because as I first looked at this watch, it wasn't immediately obvious that there was a date. It is color matched so well, and I think perhaps because there's quite a lot going on the dial anyway, that you almost don't see it. It's tucked in there just past the 4 o'clock, and although it kind of feels like it's been squeezed into that little gap, it's been squeezed into that little gap in a way that it's not really that noticeable. It's there when you want it, but it doesn't take away from the design of the dial. But that dial is then covered by a piece of mineral crystal. Yes, it's a mineral crystal. There's a little bit of doming to it. It's a single dome, so it gives you a little bit of distortion at the extreme angles. But it is a nice piece of crystal and it kind of disappears. There must be a bunch of AR coating as well, because I have noticed that when there is direct light on this dial, that it doesn't really then get distorted or pushed away or is inhibited in any way by that crystal itself. But of course then it leads onto this bullhead design case, and it very much reflects that design, that era. It has an almost sort of rounded aspects to it. It's predominantly brushed, both that bezel as well as the case. But you'll see that that brushing is broken up by a small line of polish at the base of that solid bezel, which I do actually appreciate. It probably would have been quite easy just to be all brushed and it would have been okay, but it's nice to have that little glint of polish, breaking up those two elements of the watch. At the top of this case, we do have, well, the main design element of this watch, and that is the fact that the pushers and the crown are up there at the 12. And this crown, it's not screw down, but as you pull it out, you'll see that it does hack the movement. And this one then does end up translating to a good size for my wrist, a more modern size on my wrist, because the case, it's not a vintage sized case. The case is 42 millimeters directly across. The height of the watch is 14 millimeters. It has a lug to lug with those almost tucked in lugs of 47 millimeters. The lug width itself is 22 millimeters and it only weighs in at 81 grams. And that would translate to a good on-wrist experience for me with this amazing looking strap. But unfortunately, well, the strap doesn't fit me. And the strap doesn't fit me because there's not enough holes for my 17 centimeter wrist. And it is such a disappointment because then I've had to wear this on other straps. And I have other straps that fit this 22 millimeter lug width, but they don't suit this watch like this strap because it is a real standout element of this watch and this design that the strap then fits in with it so perfectly. It's that racing style with those perforations. It's the perfect blue color. It has that orange stitching which links into those orange elements on the dial. It's soft, it's comfortable, the hardware is perfectly fine, and it is the right strap for this watch. It's almost the only strap for this watch, or at least it's the only strap that I have that is right for this watch. If I was going to keep this one, which I might keep this one because I do quite like it, but I know I'd have to buy a specific strap for it, something that suits it as well as this strap does. As it stands, I'd either have to put a hole in that strap, and I don't like putting additional holes in straps, or then go on that search to find that correct strap for this watch. But let's put that aside and look at the back of this watch. And when I look at the back of this watch, there's two things that stand out to me. Firstly, that they've linked that design element of rally and racing to that design that is etched in there. But what stands out to me more than that is the lugs and just how curved they are. Of course, when they are in this direction, that they are curving upwards, but that means they're curving downwards nicely onto wrist when you're wearing this watch. And it really does stand out about this one. And it allows for this watch to sit down onto wrist really well. Even though it is a 42 millimeter, which is probably larger from this style, but because it has that shorter lug to lug and those large curves of those lugs, it does work well. Just gonna have to find a strap that suits this watch, so it allows me to wear this watch a lot more. If, however, you have an 18 or 19 centimeter wrist or even bigger, this will be perfectly fine for you and you can use the original strap. So I'm gonna have to go on a bit of a search for one, or consider or not whether I'm gonna be keeping this one in my collection. And whilst I do that, maybe you could watch another one of my videos next.